Lady Un and Treize Kushrenada are antagonist characters, villains if you will, in the Gundam Wing anime series. Treize is Un's boss, and she is devoted to him. Much was made of their relationship. Were they in love, or just very close? It is hinted at during the series that they did have feelings for each other that went beyond work or friendship. It is this, along with the attractiveness of these characters to their fandoms, that caused terrible internet fights over them when Gundam Wing was popular. The fandoms loved Treize and Un because they were calculating, cruel, authoritative, unpredictable, edgy, and their appearances appealed to them sexually. There were two people who disliked Lady Un for entirely different reasons. The first was a writer of what is called Mary Sue. That is a character type written as a means for the writer to put herself into the story as a main character, especially as a relation or love interest to one of the established characters in the series. Mary Sue characters are written by people in fandoms who don't like to admit that is what they are doing, and they typically hate other people's Mary Sues. Within the Gundam fandom, there was a high number of fangirls who went crazy over the male characters in the anime, but hated the female characters. There were a couple reasons for this. One was that the fangirls believed certain males and females belonged together in the series, and did not like any friendship between males and females they thought shouldn't be paired. The other reason the female characters were hated is because the fangirls were simply jealous of them, wanting to be the love interest of their cartoon crush instead. It was this reason that caused one Mary Sue writer to hate Lady Un for getting in the way of her fantasy love with Treize Kushrenada. She made artwork and wrote stories about the love and eventual marriage of Treize and her created character. She also wrote one rant on how much of a burden she thought Lady Un was to Treize in the Gundam Wing series. It was this rant and various things about her page that got the attention and pathological hatred from the other Gundam fangirls who were Lady Un loyalists. They bullied her relentlessly until she took her page down. But there was another person who stumbled into this mayhem, and she was no fan of anime at all, let alone Gundam Wing. She hates both Treize and Lady Un, and fandoms in general. Fandoms and fanbases are different, though one resides within the other. A fanbase consists of all fans, from average level-headed fans to fandoms, the cultish, obsessive fans. All of the fans of Gundam in this series were of the fandom variety. The woman who did not belong thought she had found an internet space for people who just did creative writing for fun and had no idea what a Mary Sue was. But she did recognize bullying when she saw it, and she went after the fangirls who bullied the Mary Sue writer, with the fury of Treize and Lady Un themselves. Ocean has had bad experiences since, with people who were part of fandoms, people who should have steered clear of her if they would choose to be fangirls instead of average, well-rounded, level-headed fans. These experiences made her do a search on her very first experience of exposure to fandom crazy, which was the Gundam mess. She found a live journal thread where Gundam fans whinged and moaned about the Mary Sue writer who hated Lady Un. It is this thread being featured here. The Mary Sue's Lady Un rant is being read by Jessica Marley Smith, and Ocean does not hold back as she recounts her experience and reacts to what the Gundam fangirls write in this discussion thread. Hated character live journal community thread titled Lady Un Bashing. Part 1, Start of Thread. On a live journal community called Hated Character, Maria Drops of Gleam posted,
Lady Un bashing, made by a Mary Sue writer, and found thanks to the Wayback Machine.
Lady Un wasn't bashed. She's a psycho, like her best friend Treize. She sucks. No excuses.
A while ago I found this Gundam Wing fan page while toying around with the Wayback Machine. Sure, it has nice art and all, but it's all about a married woman in her mid-30s masturbating to the image of fantasizing about trees of Gundam Wing and herself, her Mary Sue. He's no saint of my devotion, okay? But what the hell?
No, Maria, but you love Lady Un, and that is no different.
And then, in that site, I found this. A whole rant dedicated solely to the bashing of everyone's favorite psycho but rough military girl, Lady Un.
Psycho but rough? Since when are those two traits not together? Who ever heard of a psycho that wasn't rough? You can definitely be rough without being psycho, but you can't be psycho without being rough. This chick started the thread on LiveJournal all because one person hated Lady Un enough to post one little rant on her own webpage? I can rant just as hard or harder on why I hate Darth Vader or Slender Man, and that's my right. Un is a hated character by me because she is a psycho and cliche, and her apologists are same as any other fandom. Obnoxious, annoying, and their undying manic love worship of her turns me off. Unfortunately, the fangirl being whinged about in this thread eventually admitted to me she hated Lady Un because she was jealous of her over that freako Treize. Ugh, what a disappointment. I'd thought better of her than that, but let's just say nobody's innocent in this Gundam mess, especially not Treize, Lady Un, or their fangirls.
Here are some of the games I spotted in there.
Not games. Opinions.
If there was a fault Treize had, it was his inability to judge people correctly, a fault that was only made worse by his sense of compassion/honor. It caused him to hang on to a person whose incompetence, if it were judged by actual military standards, would have gotten them thrown out of the army a long time ago.
Treize is not capable of real compassion. Fangirls for characters that kill overlook that and call them compassionate or kind when it comes to their own self-inserts or some characters in the series. Yuck! From what little I forced myself to read about Gundam Wing, it was all a bunch of chaos with dislikable characters all around. I don't know much about the military, so have no opinion on whether or not Lady Un would botch things there.
Actually, Lady Un is a very competent lady. She was under direct orders of Treize and got them all done. One example is Darlian's death. She tricked everyone into believing that the colony people did it. Only Relena, Dr. J, and a handful of persons knew the truth. Another is the execution of Septim, which was done practically in front of Treize himself.
So, Lady Un's charming Treize. She's a trickster, she's an executioner, and Treize, who is equally charming, liked it that way. But doesn't make incompetent, it just means she did what Treize wanted in the moment.
Treize is a person who takes no crap, and were Milady incompetent, he wouldn't hesitate to kindly but firmly kick her out of Oz.
Milady? I'm gonna be sick. Treize deserves to get crap, same as Lady Un.
Now why in heaven's name would a brilliant man like him allow himself to be saddled with someone like her?
Ugh! Brilliant man! Oh, the fangirlness! No, Treize isn't brilliant. She just thinks he is.
Well, here's what I think happened. I believe that Treize was experiencing a degree of depression and disillusionment brought about not only by his resignation from the Romefeller Foundation, but also sadness upon hearing his close friend Zek's decision to no longer fight alongside him. When a person is lonely and depressed, they often turn to something or someone for comfort, be it food, drugs, alcohol, whatever. And Treize strikes me as a man who, in his rise to power, did not have very many friends, although he was fanatically loved by his soldiers. The two closest to him, then, were Zex and Lady Un.
Not at all. I don't buy this idea that Treize got depressed and lonely. This was a fangirl trying to humanize him. They do that when they crush on bad boy characters in whatever series they're into. Treize and Un are, or were, power-hungry, tyrannical humanoids who I wouldn't even impose on a slug.
Poor Treize. Let me tell you, Suthor, he's not a person who is easily depressed. He'd see depression as weakness, in a sense.
Which makes him a ruthless weakling. Poor Treize my foot. Stop gushing. Suthor, spelled S-U-E-T-H-O-R, is a derogatory name for someone who writes Mary Sue fan fiction stories.
And would try to do something instead of latching desperately on Zex and or Un. He's a man of action, not some little coward, and he was mature enough not to confuse sympathy with love.
Not mature, not loving or sympathetic, opportunistic.
I couldn't believe he said that she was the only other person that understood him.
Where did he say so? He mentioned both Zex and her.
Wow. Just wow. Okay, apparently she left out that detail when she told me the same thing. Gah! I hate when people do that.
Also, she looks to be the jealous type.
Well, coming from somebody who admitted she was jealous of Lady Un over Treize, makes sense she forgot to mention Treize included Zex in that quote about understanding. Disappointing. I deliberately mangled Lady Un in stuff I wrote because her fandom attacked this girl and made me hate Lady Un as a result. And when she praised what I wrote, she often marveled at how I never came across as jealous of her. Well, of course not. I always asked her, why in the world should I be jealous of the likes of Lady Un? And in the end, this writer was jealous of her. We eventually had a falling out over a stupid picture I posted on some group, and she thought her flamers had done it. She basically accused me of being possibly one of them, and nothing was further from the truth. I stuck up for her when they attacked, though I did end up getting in trouble for that too, because she and her flamers ended up being guilty of the same things, only I didn't know it at the time. I ridiculed them for having a hots for dumb cartoon characters and being nymphos. She got her feelings hurt over that and sicked her husband on me. He made as if he was totally fine with her farking around with cartoon fantasy characters.
And being the psycho that she is, it could very well reach fatal attraction proportions.
That's true. Un is incredibly slap-happy. And she kills. So she could kill anything and anyone just for displeasing her a little bit.
Say with me. Split personality disorder.
Say it with me. Cliché. Overused trope. No excuse.
And BTW, by the time GW has ended, she's over it. Her two selves, Saint and Lady, have merged into one. She's no longer psycho, so the danger's not there anymore.
How touching. How incredibly cheesy. How annoyingly stupid. What bull! What she did in the past still counts. You don't get to go, I'm all better now, and just get away with it all and get accepted. And Saint? Really? Oh, gag. Couldn't they have come up with something better than that? Un is no saint, no matter which so-called personality she uses. Having said that, I do not understand how the Mary Sue writer could excuse, let alone fall in love with Trey's either.
In Endless Waltz, she directly rocked. Or maybe you didn't watch it because Trey's is not there?
Well, that's one thing good about Endless Waltz. Trey's not being there.
Okay, those were the deeper reasons. Now for the shallow ones. What can I say? She's physically unattractive, even when she's her other self. Her expression and demeanor as Colonel Lon is shrewish and sour, which makes her look as though she has 100 lemons in her mouth, and her profile, God in heaven, don't even get me started on that. Then there's the braided buns, geez, give me a break.
That's the second time she blasphemed. I wish she'd stop saying God in heaven. Surely she's not praying over something as stupid as Gundam Wing. I will never understand people getting all bent out of shape over physical appearance, and Fangirls are absolutely terrible for doing that. Both she and her bullies engaged in that kind of shallow trash. The only complaint she made here that I think has any merit is the sour expression. Sniping about a character as being physically unattractive says more about the complainer than the character itself. And classy and polished as her writing was in a technical sense, her going on about Un's appearance never sat well with me. What's wrong with braided buns? I like the look of long hair, both worn down and also put up in all kinds of styles. The only thing I really take issue with is style of dress. I don't like sleazy, nor do I like it when people deliberately distort the proportions of a character's physique, especially for certain purposes. Which brings me to another thing she and her bullies both did. Her bullies complained about her, quote, artwork, saying she depicted Lady Un as flat-chested. What's wrong with that if Un actually looks that way? One email of hers went on about some item she found on eBay, a painting of Lady Un that was anything but flat. She went on about how big and saggy they looked. I tried to be as nice as possible, telling her how shallow and dumb it was to focus on something like that when it was character traits that matter. But I also said people should leave the proportions true to the way the character looks in the series itself.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, you silly fangirl, and I think Un's beautiful.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, you silly lady unfangirl.
In her saint mode, she looked good. I wish I could look as pretty as she does in a miniskirt.
She's just a fictional character. You are you. Who cares how anyone looks? I told her off about the appearance thing, too.
Trey's deserves a woman with brains, grace and beauty who will not be a constant burden to him.
No, he does not. No decent woman in her right mind deserves Trey's. And he died in the series. Good riddance.
Black Soak comes to mind. Lady Un, in my opinion, and for the reasons stated above, definitely does not fit the bill.
I never understood Silk and her attraction to Trey's, nor could I get into the stuffy upscale setting where she wrote them. None of my characters would have fit in there at all.
WTF? Your Sue fits the bill better than Milady? You're the nuts one then, not Un.
Wrong. You're all nuts. And there you go again with this nauseating Milady swill. It is obvious you have your head firmly stuck up Lady Un's buns.
My IQ has dropped 50 points today. I want my brains back, please.
You never had any to lose.
Current mood, apathetic. Current music, Ritsuko Okazaki for Fruits Basket.
Who cares? Apparently, Lady Un had a thing for Trace K. And according to the Gundam Wiki, he finally admitted he had feelings for her when he thought she had almost lost her life. Both characters were antagonists in the series, and Trace took full advantage of Un's devotion to him, getting her to do his dirty work. Much as I dislike Lady Un, I don't understand why anyone would want to be saddled with a selfish manipulator like Trace. Nor can I understand why the Mary Sue writer couldn't accept it if Trace made that confession of having feelings for Lady Un, and just leave it be. I also can't understand why anyone would feel the need to defend either Trace or Lady Un. The Sue writer made Lady Un out to be the big demanding burden, the emotional and energy vampire, but I think it was Trace. Lady Un made the choice to be saddled with him,
Not the other way around.